Good afternoon. Ferdinand Marcos believed that our ideologies are formed based on our experiences. From the moment we open our eyes and begin to comprehend everything in our surroundings, we are then building our ideology. Also, we are driven by our natural instincts to survive, the necessity of thriving. Our country, Philippines, before Marcos was the president, was on the verge of collapse, on the border of disintegration, and our people at the very edge of blood war with countries to develop for us to have a chance. Marcos felt that martial law was necessary to put us together, unite so that history will repeat itself. For him, martial law was needed to discipline us Filipinos, to recognize that we should be following our own leader and not any foreign leader. Indeed, it made us better and stronger. That was the result. But our ancestors had to sacrifice themselves for this to happen. Our heroes who sacrificed themselves in Bataan and Corregidor, in the mountains, had done this for that ideology. For Marcos, being an authority means he was able to show the foreigners that we have our own. We control our own. We have restored what is rightfully ours. For him, he was not labeling people as servants to his terms, but people as independent to the foreigners, who have their own policies, and right then, there we have once again claimed our souls. Marcos also expressed his priority to independence as he expanded the participation of Filipinos by eliminating illiteracy as a disqualification of suffrage. Anyone can vote, even the illiterate or the uneducated. That removed the bar that hindered the poor from voting and gave the privilege to vote. The voting age was also reduced to 15 years old to recognize the responsibility of the youth. Their participation is building our nation. He may also blind us by showing and saying that he cared for the minorities. But the public, especially the poor, was outraged with the snap elections that happened in 1986. Allegation of mass cheating, political turmoil, and human rights abuses that until now people never forgot. They never forget it. Though he had high hopes for people to feel the improvement of our economy and our overall standing as Philippines, he knew that he had to sacrifice the future of the many, incurring many debts to improve Philippines, which now we still pay and our children pay, building structures which he deemed advantageous then but now contribute to the detriment of our country. The external debt of Philippines, based on research, rose more than 70 times from $360 million in 1962 to 26.2 billion in 1985, making the Philippines one of the most in-debt countries in Asia. But these debts were beneficial to us because it helped our GDP rise from $5.27 billion to $37.14 billion prior for the assassination of Ninoy. We relied in the USA's purchase of our local products for our economy's stability. This improvement in our economy were reserved when Ninoy was assassinated, because most of Marcos's so-called government developed programs failed to materialize, and American investors were discouraged by Filipinos who were against Marcos' corruption. This is also because while Philippines continued to rise in terms of economy, standing before the assassination, almost all of the income gained before the assassination by the Philippines from the rise were diverted by Marcos to his party campaign funds, and the wealthiest also received twice as much than those at the bottom. Also, with Marcos trying hard to become the top, he implemented work that helped local workers, like for example in the wood or timber industry, hence the rise in its exports. He did not show any concern to what that entailed for our environment, meaning there were deforestation left and right, but he never bothered because what he looked at our numbers, our economies, our economy rather, our rise above the others. Another example is the use of miracle rice, or some may call it IR8, which helped the rice industry increase the annual rice production in the Philippines from 3.7 to 7.7 million tons in 2 decades. But the switch to our IR8 required more fertilizers and pesticides that were generally harmful and accommodated only to the high profit corporations and not peasant farmers. Another corrupted project by the Marcos regime was the Bataan nuclear power plant that was never powered because of the safety concerns in relations to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster from the Soviet Ukraine. The main issue here was the cost of construction, which Marcos gave the responsibility to Westinghouse Electric without any support from the plants that were open to the people. There are absence on the specification of Westinghouse's proposal, and when they were about to start construction, the cost estimate ballooned to $1.2 billion without explanation, and the final value to be about $2.3 billion. The project was criticized by many because of the debt that the Philippines incurred, and the power plant turned out to be a public health hazard, and it was ultimately built on an earthquake zone. An unexpected high waste that would result from its operation. But so far, indeed, Marcos had a dream. But power consumed him, which he made the dream come true. Though we cannot deny that the Philippines improved, the Philippines being ahead of the competition, but all the fruits and efforts being ahead of the competition, it is kept for himself, for the Marcos himself. He had the right ideology. It is just he just did what was opposite of the ideology, and that's the end of my terms and ideologies on the Marcos's regime. So thank you.